Welcome to the Veterans Voice, where we highlight programs and services that support our veterans and family members in the greater Houston area. I'm your host, Tim Stroud. On a previous episode of Veterans Voice, we met Dr. Tom Zampieri and followed his story as an Army medic to physician's assistant, PA, in the VA system, serving as past national president of the Blinded Veterans Association. He joins us to tell us more about the BVA. Welcome to the show, Tom.
Yeah, welcome. Thank you very much for inviting me to come back again.
Absolutely. I mean, Thomas and I connected because we were both medics and we both serve on the MAC board for the VA. And once a month, we get to chat about the things that are going well, things that need improvement. And that's one of the things you've been doing in Washington. So let's half step back. What is the history of the BVA?
Yeah, really quickly. The Blinded Veterans Association was formed March 28th, 1945, with a group of obviously returning European theater war blinded and visually impaired active duty service members. And they wanted an advocacy organization to represent them both in the Pentagon and the VA, to try to improve rehabilitative services between back then, the War Department and the Department of Veterans Affairs.
And how did you get involved with the BVA, Tom?
I lost my vision in around 2000, so I found the local BVA chapter of the national BVA. And so I've been involved with the BVA for 24 years.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. But I ended up being hired by them, and for 9 years I worked in Washington, D.C. as their National Director of Government Relations.
And you're one of the guests that we would love to talk to for 45 minutes to an hour of just diving in, but the show is segmented for 8.5 to 9 minutes, so we can just touch on things and go a little bit deeper. And so with that, what types of issues for visually impaired veterans does the BVA tackle?
We really still do a lot of, interestingly, what the original founders were working on, which is trying to make sure for the OIF generation, it was, seamless transition between the military trauma hospitals and getting them into the VA rehabilitation blind centers.
Okay.
And then we also, at a national level, work with Congress on a lot of the different issues, both veterans benefits and veterans health care in general.
Okay. Tom, how does the BVA work with other veteran service organizations and the VA?
Yes, it's really a close collaboration. So
I thought you were going to say something else. But...
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
That too.
Yeah. Considering it's working with Congress a lot, but we work with all the major chartered veteran service organizations, the American Legion, the VFW, Disabled American Veterans, Paralyzed Veterans of America, Military Order of Purple Heart, all of them, because it takes a concentrated effort when we're working with Congress and the different committees, appropriations committees, the VA committee, the Armed Services committees. No one group can do it by themselves. And especially when you're advocating for like the VA's budget, which is $245 billion.
Yeah, it's increased under the last administration. I'm very thankful for our leaders for doing that, because I've seen that the different programs that the VA has instituted. And do you want to talk a little bit about those in the Houston area or on a broader scale?
Probably on a broader scale.
Okay.
So the audience understands that, the community organizations that work and serve veterans in Houston, the audience may not realize that the entire VA's healthcare system and benefit system and the national cemetery system all are part of the things that the headquarters staff in Washington, D.C. for BVA advocates for, to improve the programs, make sure the staffing and across the VHA healthcare system is in place, make sure that educational benefits disability benefits are there across the country for our veterans. And for more information, you can go to the www.bva.org website on all the different things that we do.
Okay. Now, there are some veterans that left the service and they are visually impaired, whether it's partially or in whole. But there are all other veterans that are aging, our Vietnam veterans, our Korean veterans, that are simply losing their sight.
Mm-hmm.
And so what steps do they take to make sure that they can hold on to what they have and then possibly slow down that process of degeneration?
Right. And so that's a great point. And I want to stress to the audience, if you've got an uncle or a grandfather that served,
or grandmother,
yeah, and they've got degenerative eye diseases, they're eligible, for rehabilitation care. And there's kind of that idea that, well, the VA only takes care of those individuals who are combat blinded or whatever, but actually 45% of our membership are people with age-related degenerative eye conditions that cause their vision loss.
That's a healthy number.
Yeah. And so we really advocate for research for those types of diseases like glaucoma or macular degeneration, diabetic retinopathy. We get very involved in research advocacy for, of course, ocular trauma. We got $20 million a year in the defense appropriations specifically for eye trauma research grants.
Oh, that's great. That sounds like a lot, but we both know it's not.
It's not enough.
Right. Yeah.
Yeah.
And one of the things that I like about the Houston VA, I think every veteran and their family members has a love-hate relationship with the VA. When we get to the care and it's world-class, we love it. Mm-hmm. Sometimes there are some hurdles of getting there. Do you have any suggestions for the veterans and family members that need to get in their neck of the woods? Because I've seen some of the programs at the Houston VA, and they're amazing, where they train the eyes and then they train the family members on what to look for health and wellness for their eyesight.
Yeah. And so again, enrolling into the system, if you're visually impaired, and if you've seen a private doctor, an optometrist or ophthalmologist, and they say you're low vision, your vision's 20/80 or worse, or 2100 or worse, or if you've been diagnosed as being legally blind, once you're enrolled, there's no co-payments.
Okay, that's nice.
Because you automatically are put into Category 4, which was a piece of legislation that I got passed in 2010, which really took an act of Congress.
Literally. And Thomas, thank you for that. And then we'll close with the advice that my grandfather gave me. Dig the well before you're thirsty. See your optician. Make sure you get your yearly checkups. And after the break, we're going to discover a comfortable place where veterans can go for coffee and for conversation.
When the last bell rings, don't stress about what comes next. At Houston Community College, we make your lessons matter. From healthcare to tech, or business to the arts. Open the door to HCC Real World Education, where passions become careers. Find more at hccs.edu and let your success take flight.
If you need to do something to feel okay to drive, you're not okay to drive. Don't drive buzzed.
Welcome back to the Veterans Voice. Few things are as comforting and restorative as a hot cup of coffee. I like mine spicy. Reverend Tim Franklin is here to plug us in to the coffee connection. And for those who don't know they have to go down there and visit with the pastor because they do more than serve up a cup of coffee. Pastor Tim, welcome to the show.
Good to be here. Thanks for having me.
Are you kidding me? I was blessed to be introduced to you by Jay Kopic and serve as we were out and about in the community. So let's just dive in. Tell us a little bit more about your place.
Okay. Well, Coffee Connection is a ministry of the Connection Church. We are a smaller church, and we wanted to find ways that we could have a bigger impact in our community. And this is what God put on our heart, is to open this coffee shop. We run it as a nonprofit, all volunteer staff. We give all the profits from the shop away to help others. So we look for needs in our community. We look for needs in general that we can be a part of, that's where we can support others.
Pastor, how did you get started with helping out veterans at the Coffee Connection?
Well, it just so happens shortly after we opened, they opened a VA clinic right next to our coffee shop, which was, I think, a God thing. And so, veterans tend to look for a cup of coffee. And so we made it a point. We said we wanted to make sure that we were welcoming these folks. We made a decision early on that veterans would never have to pay for a drink in our shop. And so every veteran that comes in is entitled to a drink of whatever kind of drink they want. Some of them like black coffee. Some of them like the foo-foo stuff. So,
I'm glad you said that, sir, because when I was in Iraq, I promised myself after 5 months of drinking mud that when I got back, I would booze up my coffee any way that I liked. And so what has been the veterans' reaction to your service at the Coffee Connection?
It's been amazing, really. Over the years, we've had an opportunity to talk to a lot of veterans, trying to make them welcome. We have had veterans who have come in and sat at the counter at our coffee shop, just chatting with me, and I've actually had veterans tell me that this was the first time they'd told their story, and had them weeping there at our counter, telling their story. We have other veterans that come in and we tell them, your coffee's paid for, you don't have to pay here. And I've actually had Vietnam veterans tell me this is the first time anyone ever told me thank you.
Oh, and Tim, I just got goosebumps. Thank you for sharing that, because we have so many Vietnam veterans in the greater Houston area. And the only reason that we have such a community now is because those who retire or exit the military, they literally get to stand on the shoulders of giants, of the men and women who were sent off to war without a hero send-off or that welcome home.
Amen to that.
And so, I'm sorry, go ahead, Doc.
No, I was going to say, we've had veterans PTSD veterans who it took one I think of, it took him months to ever get in the front door. He'd walk outside the front door, finally came in, we put him a chair right next to the door, and he would sit there for a while, finally worked his way to the counter, and he told me, this is the only place besides my house that I feel safe.
That's a true testament of what you're doing there, sir. So prior to COVID, looking at my notes, that you had additional fundraising project. Would you tell our listeners a little bit about that?
We used to do an annual, there for a number of years, we did an annual Veterans Festival in our parking lot, where we would provide food, entertainment, all kind of vendors, everything, and any profits that came in off that, we donated to a veterans organization. We have not started that back up since COVID, but we still look for ways that we can support.
Well, I appreciate that, sir. And then now it's time for the meat and potatoes portion of it. Let's talk about the mobile food pantry that you host every month at your facility and how many families come through.
We started that as a result of Jay Kopic with Serve, was looking for a place to work with Combined Arms to provide for veterans who were dealing with food insecurity. They approached us and said, would it be possible to partner with you at your facility? And I said, absolutely. We had no hesitation whatsoever. We have been doing this now for about 3 years, and it's been amazingly successful from my point of view. We have served almost 8,000 individuals per year since we started this, and I don't see it slowing down at all.
Reverend, what are some of the success stories coming from veterans? Because I know there's a lot of them that repeat, that come out to get food, but you also have veterans like Jeff Picard from the Waste Project that volunteers, Melanie Dubendorf from another one, and then John Smith from Combined Arms. If you would mix all that together and tell people how they can volunteer and help out.
Well, every third Wednesday, starting at we start setting up about 2:00. Anyone is welcome to come. There have been a number of different organizations that have pitched in to make this work. We always need volunteers, as every organization does. And it's been amazing to watch veterans serving veterans, and that camaraderie that they have for one another, that desire to see fellow veterans be able to have their needs met.
And this happens every month, rain or shine?
Rain or shine, hot or cold. We're out there during the summer and feeling the asphalt melting under our shoes, but it doesn't matter because there's needs out there and we want to meet those needs.
Reverend, if you would tell our listeners a little bit about the food that is provided. Where is it sourced from in the different varieties?
We work with the Galveston County Food Bank. They have been amazing. It's set up through them. They bring a truck out. We have Sam is their faithful delivery guy and coordinator, and they bring a variety of different things. We never know for sure what we're going to have from month to month, but it's always a variety of good things that we can pass out to the veterans.
Reverend, I'm really appreciative of your efforts because it amazed me of how many families are actually food insecure in the greater Houston area. And so programs like yours, Operation Turkey, through their local churches and synagogues and mosques, really keep things moving forward, especially our active duty service members at Ellington Field. And that includes our Air Force, our Coast Guard, and a few Navy guys and gals. So thank you for being on the program today. And after the break, we're going to meet a veteran entrepreneur who is sharing the lessons he learned with other veterans.
When the last bell rings, don't stress about what comes next. At Houston Community College, we make your lessons matter. From healthcare to tech, or business to the arts. Open the door to HCC Real World Education, where passions become careers. Find more at hccs.edu and let your success take flight.
If you love them enough to relearn math so you can teach them math, then surely you'll check nhtsa.gov/the-right-seat to make sure they're correctly buckled in the back seat.
Welcome back to the Veterans Voice. Military service involves developing skills in leadership, teamwork, organization, and perseverance. We're joined by Joshua Wathen, who translated those skills into success in business, and now he supports other veterans in their journey. Welcome to the show, Josh.
Thanks for having me, Tim. It's a pleasure to be here.
Absolutely, sir. So if you would, give us a little bit of background of who you are and what your business is, please.
Yeah, so I joined the Army when I was 20 years old, ended up as a Special Forces weapons sergeant right off the streets. Got out, got my degree in entrepreneurship, went back overseas as a contractor when ISIS was bad in Iraq, taught the Iraqi Special Forces, and then came back, started doing leadership consulting, and ended up partnering with a guy named Jason Rory, and we are running a strategic cybersecurity consulting firm right now, among other things.
Wait a minute. Let's just pause for a second. You went from special forces to tapping the keyboard and wiggling the mouse. How did that happen?
Well, I'm not your keyboard tapper.
Okay.
That's my partner. So I sit on the operations side of the house. We do all the sales strategies, hiring processes, operations side of the business part of the business.
It's amazing how everything has turned into a digital world. I have so many of active duty that are just now transitioning out, and they reach out and they say, what is a portable job skill that I can use from anywhere around the world? Because some of the guys and gals getting out today, they do not want to purchase a home and plant oak trees. They would rather plant tomato plants and then pop them up and then just move to the next area. So let's talk a little bit about how your experience translated into your entrepreneurial efforts.
Yeah, I think people are more important than equipment. That was one of the soft principles that we learned on a team. The foundation of everything is leadership and building rapport. And if you can do that part of it, you've got the basics down for a business. And then I went to school for entrepreneurship to learn all the different functions of a business. So as a soldier, depending on what you want to do, you've got to go learn those weapon systems. And the business skill sets that I got from school are the weapon systems that I employ today.
That's a heck of a shift there because like you, I studied entrepreneurship. I was blessed to have a mentor with Paul J. Meyer and touch base with Ken Blanchard and Dr. John Maxwell. It's amazing how you go from talking to colonels and sergeants to people that have never served in the military. So what were some of those challenges that you had to hurdle as you crossed from military into entrepreneurship?
Well, the type of communication and the way you communicate is quite a bit different. Learning how direct to be versus how to nurture a situation or a relationship. Because I think in the military, oftentimes we're attached to a unit and everybody's there and there's nothing you can do about it. So you're in kind of this pressure cooker situation where you're forced to get along and figure stuff out. And in business, that's not the case. In business, you've got to earn the trust based on how you treat people, not necessarily how you perform. How you perform is just how not to lose trust, in my experience. But building it is how you treat people.
Sounds like some sage advice there. And you're exactly right. The military teaches you right place, right time, right uniform. And then when you get into entrepreneurship, you learn it's also about the right attitude. And you look at the top five books that you're reading and the top 5 people that you're surrounding yourself. So any tips and tricks on the latest books or programs that you have on entrepreneurship or leadership?
That's evolved. Maxwell is definitely right up there. Good to Great with Jim Collins is also another classic. Absolutely. It depends on your style. Extreme Ownership is good with Jocko Willink. What type of leadership style works for you and who do you want to follow? I'd seek out that material because that's what you're going to relate to.
Exactly right. And I tell everybody, it's like, you don't have to read everything in the book and agree on every sentence and thought and idea. Extrapolate from it, from what you love, and then run with it. Be great at something. Just one thing, like Curly said in not the Three Stooges, but in with Billy Crystal. He said, you find that one thing that you're great at and that you're passionate about. And from what I can tell, you're very passionate about cybersecurity and your business. So what are the most important things someone should know about cybersecurity?
Nobody's going to do it for you. You can pay for the best advice in the world, but it takes you doing the basics. Too often we go into a business and we find that multi-factor authentication is in the process or the procedure. The folks at the top aren't doing it because it bothers their day. And it's the simple things like that. If you remember to lock your doors, put your keys away, all the physical security measures you do to protect your family, just start getting used to doing those things from a cybersecurity perspective in order to protect your business. It's if you're willing to do those things to protect your life and the life of those around you, be willing to do those things to protect the livelihood of yourself and the livelihood of those around you. And I think that's the biggest differentiator between physical security and cybersecurity.
Okay. Well, let's keep going on that, Joshua. What are the top 3 things that you would recommend to somebody right now to improve their cybersecurity?
On a personal basis, get a VPN.
Okay.
If you have a VPN on your phone, it's hard to track you. And if it's hard to track you, it's hard to gather intel about you. Get a password manager. I use Keeper myself. I like that one because it will auto-generate the passwords for you. And as opposed to using the Google password manager, if somebody cracks my Gmail, then they're in my Google password manager, whereas Keeper is separate from that system. And then use multi-factor authentication. That is the your plan B when it comes to password protection.
Excellent. Well, right now, Joshua, there's a veteran or a family member watching or listening to our podcast, and they're lost in the sauce. They are chomping at the bit to become an entrepreneur, and they just can't seem to take that first step. A friend of mine who is a 3rd-degree Dan black belt, I was asking him, what's the most difficult belt that you went through? Was it your first black belt, your second, your third? I say, was it purple? And he's like, no, you're not even close. He said the hardest belt to get is your white belt. People won't go through the door. So how do people go through the door?
Yeah, absolutely. Same way they get into the gym. Find somebody that's willing to invite you and coach you. I think that's going to be your best leg up. And then, like you said, what's the one thing you're good at? Let's leverage that and figure out how to do something around it. If you're in a position where you've got an education in business or you're going after an MBA, then there's programs like Owners in Honor, which is a nonprofit search fund that will help source and fund the process for you to buy a business, train you in order to grow it so that you can sell it 5-10 years down the line, if that's what you want to do.
I love it. Josh, let's put a bow on this conversation and tell people how to contact you.
LinkedIn. If you go to linkedin.com/Joshua Wathen, you'll find me. You can't miss me. Happy to help anybody that needs it, not only with business, but if you're suffering from PTSD or suicide prevention, stuff like that, I've got a ton of resources for you. Just reach out.
Thank you, Josh. I appreciate it. And if you'd like more information on any of the organization and services that you've seen on the program today, visit our website at hccs.edu/VeteransVoice. To listen to a podcast of the version of this show, visit hccs.edu/podcast. For everyone here at HCC TV, thank you for joining us on the Veterans Voice.